everybody, welcome back. We're on chapter 2 in the book series As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. So chapter 2 is called Effect of Thought on Circumstances. This is a wonderful, wonderful chapter. This is a crazy good chapter. The effect on thought on circumstances. So this is probably the longest chapter in this book. This is 8 pages. So since it's a little bit longer, let's rock and roll and dive into this. And that way I don't have to do a really big introduction here. Man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seeds will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind. And I highlighted this in green, but this is like really so important because it's amazing how every old school prosperity teachers, when they talk about the mind, they all use the mind like a garden. Okay, and it's really how you cultivate your garden of your mind. Meaning that if you're not in control of your thoughts, weeds are going to grow in your mind. And if right now I'm in Ohio, and my mom and my sister, but my brother-in-law owns he's a farmer, so he owns farmland. So he's been a farmer it's been in his family for generations. So when you live on farmland, or you have just a huge acres of land, and you have to mow your grass, but if you don't keep up with it, it's funny how if you don't keep up with it, when weeds grow, what happens is in real life, in the law of nature, the roots get stronger. So even though the weeds, when they're sure, it's super easy to mow over, but if you just let it go, like the whole entire summer, those like weak weeds actually turn into really strong plants, really strong weeds that you can't almost take a mower over anymore. You have to bring over more of a farmer mower, more of a heavy duty mower to mow over it, because the weeds actually turn into like really big and thick. And it's when you use that and you have that experience. I mean, it's funny how old school prosperity teachers, when they talk about the mind, and you talk about thought, and especially when we fester on things, we all fester on things. Our mind is going 24 hours a day until we actually go to sleep at night. It's just constantly going. We're constantly thinking. Most of the time, we're constantly thinking about negative things, and we just fester on it. It's on like a giant hamster wheel. And if we're not careful, and this is what he's saying, if we're not careful, just like weeds in a garden, just outside weeds, if you don't tend to it, you don't tend to your garden, weeds get out of control. Then even if you have a garden, the weeds will actually squeeze the life out of your plants. Your pretty flowers, or maybe you're trying to grow tomatoes and vegetables and stuff like that, they'll actually squeeze the nutrition out of your plants. So it's amazing how he talks about this, because one of the things that comes to mind is Neville Goddard. Like most of us, like on my channel, we love Neville Goddard technique. And Neville Goddard talks about, especially in Pruning Shears of a Vision, he always talks about the mind as a garden, and having pruning shears, basically he called pruning shears of a vision, where you go to bed at nighttime, and 5 or 10 minutes before you go to bed, you prune your garden. You go back in your day, and anything negative, you take that out of your day, and you relive it inside your imagination. That's how you prune your garden. You basically take pruning shears and you cut your garden. You trim around all the weeds and grass, and you keep it a beautiful garden in your mind. And what's kind of even special about James Allen here, this book was published in 1902. Okay, this was even before Neville Goddard's time. So when it was published in 1902, James Allen is teaching Neville Goddard stuff right here. Neville Goddard, I believe, passed away. He passed away in the early 1970s, and he was relatively young. He was only about 67. So this was even before Neville Goddard's time. So let's kind of continue here. So James Allen continues with the garden ideology a little bit. Just as a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing the flowers and fruits which he requires, so may a man tend the garden of his mind. This is just what I've been saying. Just like Neville Goddard, you need to tend the garden of your mind with all your thoughts you have. You need to tend the garden. If not, your thoughts, your negative thoughts, just get stronger and stronger and stronger, and the roots dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Just like a weak little plant, when the roots grow stronger and stronger and stronger, that plant, that weak little plant, grows stronger and stronger and stronger, and it becomes more difficult to actually trim your garden. It becomes more difficult to actually mow your grass. And he continues, weeding out all the wrong, useless, and impure thoughts, cultivating toward perfection the flowers and fruits of right, useful, and pure thoughts. And I'm right here. By pursuing this process, a man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. I mean, isn't that great? And this is only in chapter 2. Now remember, in chapter 1, we really discussed, with thought and character, you're the master. You're the maker of your thoughts. And he says that man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals within himself the laws of thought and understands with every increasing accuracy how the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of his character, circumstances, and destiny. Thought and character are one. Now remember, thought and character, this was chapter 1 and As a Man Thinketh. This is what we kind of went through in chapter 1. So he's really connecting chapter 1 and chapter 2 here. So if you haven't, now if you're just jumping into this and you haven't watched chapter 1, actually go back right now and watch chapter 1. Because especially with these old school prosperity books, they really build on every chapter. So if you're trying to jump in right in the middle, you might get lost a little bit, because they really, when it goes from chapter 1, they really build on chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. So you're going to get way more out of it starting from the beginning. Thought and character are one. And as character can only manifest and discover itself through environment and circumstance. Listen to that. Thought and character are one. And as character can only manifest and discover itself through environment and circumstance. The outer conditions of a person's life will always be found to be harmoniously related to his inner state. What does that mean? It means what we've been talking about, even in chapter 1. Everything comes from within out. So whatever you feel, whatever your deep beliefs are, whatever your secret beliefs are, whatever your secret thoughts are, whatever you're thinking about all day long, that comes from within. And if you don't fix it, it's sooner or later going to manifest in your external environment. This does not mean that a man's circumstances at any given time are an indication of his entire character, but that those circumstances are so intimately connected with some vital thought element within himself that for the time being, they are indispensable to his development. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. Listen to this. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. Now again, I discussed this in chapter 1, but again, when he says man, he means everybody. Since it's an old school book, old school books really reference man. So what he's meaning is by everybody, every human. This isn't 2024. This isn't general neutral writing. This isn't writing in third person or first person or second person. So when he says every man, he means everybody. And that's what was meant back in the day also. He means everybody, because this is way more old English, old school writing. And I wanted to, I got the original one, or the original As a Man Thinketh, just because I really wanted it how James Allen really wrote it. I didn't want a revised version of it. So I stuck with this version for a purpose of it, because I didn't want somebody else coming in and revising it, changing his words around, changing his thoughts around, and stuff like that. So every man, everybody, you, is where he is by law of his being. The thoughts which he has built into his character have brought him there. Meaning your thoughts right now, what's ever going on, your life that you manifested is from your thoughts right now and your thoughts in the past. That's what you see in your external environment. That's what we have to really come to terms with here. And in the arrangement of his life, there is no element of chance, but all is the result of a law which cannot err. This is just as true of those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings of those who are contented with them. As we progress in an evolving being, I'll say this one more time. As we progress in evolving being, man is where he is that he may learn, that he may grow. And as he learns the spiritual lesson which any circumstance contains for him, it passes away and gives place to other circumstances. Man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. Listen to this. This is so powerful. And I'll reword this a little bit. Man is buffeted by circumstances as long as he believes to himself that he's controlled by his outside conditions. No, this is so true. With most people, sometimes I can fall in the trap of this, myself, if I'm not careful. And even for yourself, is we think we're in control by what's going on the outside of us, what's going on in my external world. Okay, so most of us live that our 3D world is in control of us. We're controlled by outside forces. We're controlled by all these roadblocks that jump in our way. Okay, but what we have to come to terms with, we're actually in control, because we're in control from within. It comes from within out. But he says, James Allen says, but when we realize that he is a creative power and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. I'm going to read this little paragraph one more time all together because it's so powerful. Really listen to this. Man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creature of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he is a creative power and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. Okay, this is what we're all trying to do when we talk about manifesting. We're trying to be a master of ourselves, a master of our thoughts. Okay, if we can control our thoughts, we can control our thought life exactly how we want them, we can have anything in this world. We can have anything in our 3D world. And let me change the color here real quick, because when he says a creative power right here, what does he mean by that? Creative power. That means going inside your imagination. You have that creative power. Remember, it starts from within out. You have that creative power, just like Neville Goddard teaches. Neville Goddard teaches, you set an intention, you go inside your imagination. You go inside, you have that creative power. That creative power is imagination. You go inside your imagination and you create an imaginal scene, like an imaginal movie of what you want, what your intention is. You see yourself doing it. You're actually doing it. You're feeling yourself doing it. And then you drift off to sleep to influence your subconscious mind. That's what your creative power is. It's your imagination. Then he continues that circumstances grow out of thought. Every man knows who has for any length of time practiced self-control and self-purification. For he will have noticed that the altercation in his circumstances has been an exact ratio with his altered mental state. So what he means by this is that your thought life is an exact ratio. Your outside world is in the exact ratio, the exact mental condition of your thought life. You're getting exactly how your thought life is. You're getting, your outside world is exactly your secret you, your secret life, your secret thoughts. So you're getting, it's working from the inside out. But remember, universal law doesn't discriminate. Okay, it is. Okay, if you have more positive thoughts than negative, well, positive is going to come to you. But if you have more negative thoughts, well, negative is going to come to you. I'm right here. So true is this, that when a man earnestly applies himself to remedy the defects in his character and make swift and marked progress, he passes rapidly through a succession of vicissitudes. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors. This is so powerful. The secret you. When I bring up the secret you, or secret thoughts, or secret beliefs, we're complaining secretly to ourselves. We're not telling anybody. We don't even tell our significant other. This is what he says here. It's so powerful. The soul attracts that which it secretly harbors. Listen, I'll say this one more time and I'll move on. Your soul attracts that which it secretly harbors. that which it loves, and also that which it fears. So you attract what you love, and you attract what you fear. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its unchastened desires and circumstances, are in the means by which the soul receives its own. That's why I keep on talking about the secret you, the secret self, your secret thoughts. Okay, we think well, see, what happens is this is the best time to explain this. What happens is we think we can manipulate other people. Okay, we've kind of learned this going through school. You know, we can talk our way out of things. We can manipulate things. We can manipulate other people to get what we want. We can do this on our job, manipulate the boss to get what we want. And we kind of learn to kind of manipulate the circumstances around us in order to get what we want. Then it seems like it's working for us. But then what happens is we take this strategy and then we think we can apply it to manifesting. Because we get involved with manifesting because we want to manifest a better life for ourselves, no matter what it is. But we take that same strategy with us. We think we can manipulate God. We think we can manipulate the laws of the universe. We think we can manipulate all these things. But remember, you can't fool God. You can't fool the universe. You can't fool Mother Nature. No matter what you want to say, you can't fool universal law. Universal law doesn't discriminate. Universal law doesn't play favorites. Your subconscious mind doesn't play favorites. It is what it is. If there's a hot, there has to be a cold. Okay, if you're messing with fire, you can't manipulate that fire to not get burned. If you stick your hand in a fire, you're going to get burned, no matter what. You know, we all would agree with that. But see, what we try to do, we try to manipulate these laws. And this is what Hallowell is saying. Not Hallowell, this is what James Allen is saying. The soul attracts for which it secretly harbors, that which it loves, and also which it fears. It reaches the height of its cherished aspirations. It falls to the level of its unchastened desires, and circumstances are the means by which the soul receives its own. Every thought seed sown or allowed to fall into the mind and to take root there produces its own, blossoming sooner or later into act and bearing its own fruitage of opportunity and circumstance. Good thoughts bear good fruit. Bad thoughts, bad fruit. Listen to this. This is so powerful. I'm gonna highlight this. This is why, it's when you go through these old school prosperity books, I mean, every flipping chapter, it's just full of wisdom and non-fluff. Listen to this. Every thought seed sown, where he's talking about you reap what you sow. Every thought seed sown or allowed to fall into your mind. We're talking about you're not in control of your mind. Whatever you think about, if you're letting negative thoughts in, okay, you start festering on, I don't like this person, I don't like this circumstance, and you're festering on what you don't like about it. Okay, take that example for a second. If I'm festering on what I don't like, that thought seed is sown, or it's allowed to fall into my mind, I'm festering on it, and to take root there, because as I'm festering on it, it's taking root in my mind. It's planted in my mind, and the longer it's holding in my mind, and we do this day in and day out, and the roots are growing and getting stronger, then James Allen said, it produces its own. Then he says it blossoms sooner or later into act. What does he mean by this? If it blossoms sooner or later into act, meaning that we're starting to see it in our outside world, and bearing its own fruitage of opportunity and circumstance. Then he says, and this is the law of compensation here, good thoughts bear good fruit, bad thoughts, bad fruit. This is this universal law. You have good thoughts, by law, good has to come to you. But if you have bad thoughts, by law, bad has to come to you. The outer world of circumstance shapes itself to the inner world of thought. And both pleasant and unpleasant external conditions are factors which make for the ultimate good of the individual. As the reaper of his own harvest, man learns both of suffering and bliss. He's still going on. He's still talking about you reap what you sow. Okay? This is even taken from the Bible. It's taken from many religions, not just the Bible. And he says, as the reaper of his own harvest, you reap what you sow. Whatever you sow comes back to you. Man learns both by suffering and bliss. following the inmost desires, aspirations, thoughts by which he allows himself to be dominated, pursuing the whips of impure imaginings and steadfastly walking the highway of strong and high endeavor, a man at last arrives at their fruition and fulfillment in the outer conditions of his life. The laws of growth and adjustment everywhere obtains. I'm moving on a little bit faster because since I've already read this, this chapter is a little bit long, and I know he explains it in more detail as we move along. A man does not come to the almshouse or the jail by the tyranny of fate or circumstance, by the way of pathway of the groveling thoughts and base desires. And when he says groveling thoughts, these are like negative thoughts. Nor does a pure-minded man fall suddenly into crime by stress of any mere external force. The criminal thought had long been secretly fostered in the heart, and the hour of opportunity revealed its gathered power. Circumstance does not make the man. It reveals him to himself. Listen to that. That's so powerful. Circumstance does not make the man. Circumstance does not make you, but it reveals to you to yourself. It's just revealing who you really are. It's like you're looking in the mirror. No such conditions can exist as descending into a vice and its attendant sufferings apart from vicious inclinations, or ascending into virtue and its pure happiness, without the continued cultivation of victorious aspirations. In man, therefore, as the Lord and Master of thought, is the maker of himself, the shaper and the author of environment. Listen to this. I'll say it one more time, so it's so powerful here. Therefore, as the Lord and Master of thought, you're the Lord and Master and the maker of your thought, is the maker of himself, the shaper and author of your environment. You're the shaper of your environment. That's what he's talking about. What's coming from within out. You're shaping your own environment. This is what we have to deeply understand. Okay, if you don't like what's going on in the outside world, what we really have to understand, you created it. If I don't like what's going on myself, if I don't like what's going on in my outside world, I have to come to grips with that I created it. Even at birth, the soul comes to its own, and through every step of its earthly pilgrimage, it attracts those combinations of conditions which reveal itself, which are the reflections of its own purity and impurity, its strength and weakness. Men do not attract that which they want, but that which they are. We've heard this over and over and over again. I bet you heard this. Men do not attract which they want. You do not attract by which you want, but by which you are. What does that mean? Which you are. It's like your secret you again, your deep-rooted beliefs. You're attracting within out. You're not attracting what you want, but you're attracting what you are. Their whims, fancies, and ambitions are thwarted at every step, but their inmost thoughts and desires are fed with their own food, be it foul or clean. The divinity that shapes our ends is in ourselves. Listen, our divinity that shapes our ends, that shapes our environment, is in ourselves. Okay, if you want to shape your environment, you want your dream house, your dream car, your dream career. It starts from within, out. It doesn't start from outside in. It is our very self. I'll say it one more time so I won't break up the sentence. The divinity that shapes our ends is in ourselves. It is our very self. Only himself manacles man. Thought and action are the gaolers of fate. They imprison, being base. They are also the angels of freedom. They liberate, being noble. Not what he wishes and prays for does a man get, but what he justly earns. Not what he wishes and prays for does a man get, but what he justly earns. His wishes and prayers are only gratified and answered when they harmonize with his thoughts and actions. this is great stuff. I mean, just super great stuff. This chapter, I love this chapter. His wishes and prayers. We're going to talk about prayer here for a little bit second. Because most of us, no matter if we believe in God, don't believe in God, most of us, sometime in our life, have went into prayer. Even for spiritual, even at church, even like we just had enough of life and we just constantly break down and sit down and pray. Okay. But listen to this when he talks about prayer. Your wishes and prayers are only gratified and answered. Listen to this. Are only gratified and answered by when they are harmonized with his thoughts and actions. Your prayers are only answered how it harmonizes with your thoughts. And I can tell you this, every single prosperity teacher, every single old school prosperity teacher, when they teach you about prayer, agree with this. James Allen, out of this book. Raymond Hollowell, when we did the Working with the Law book. Napoleon Hill, even Neville Goddard, Thomas Troward, and the list goes on and on and on. It means if your prayers aren't being answered, you have to be aware of the state you're going into prayer. Most of us, when we come into prayer, we're coming into prayer at our last resort. We're coming into prayer with worry and doubt and fear that our prayers aren't going to be answered. And that's exactly what we get. We get more worry, doubt, and fear, and our prayers not answered because that's the state we're coming to. Remember, this is what James Allen is talking about here. Is your prayers are only gratified and answered how they harmonize with your thoughts and actions. So if you have thoughts of worry, doubt, and fear, that's what's going to harmonize with, and all you're going to get is more worry, doubt, and fear. But the opposite occurs. If you go to prayer, even if you take the Bible, as you believe, you receive. You go to prayer in a state of belief. You ask and you believe and you receive. If you go to prayer in that state, you actually get what you prayed for. And sorry, I don't know if you can see me see me sweating here. It's actually super hot, and I turn off the fans and the air conditioner in the office just so I don't have the background sound. But oh well. Let's continue. In the light of this truth, what then is the meaning of fighting against circumstances? Listen to this. Now he's talking about force, how force negates. Because this is what we do. We fight against circumstances. We don't like what's something going on. We don't like our negative thoughts. We don't like the negative roadblocks. And we start pushing against it. We start fighting it. And this is what he's talking about. What is the meaning of the fighting against circumstances? And he says it means that a man is continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time he is nourishing and preserving its cause in the heart. That cause may take the form of a conscious vice or an unconscious weakness, but whatever it is, it will stubbornly retards the efforts of its processor, and thus calls aloud for remedy. Listen, like he said it so perfectly here, is for one, when we're fighting against something with force. Now force, it doesn't matter. When we think about force, we think about physical force. Okay, now this is common sense. You know, if you're physically forcing somebody, of course they're going to turn away and run from you. Okay, they're going to expel from you. But the same thing occurs with mental force. When you're, even if mental force, you're trying to mental coerce something to happen, you're trying to mental coerce somebody else. No matter what type of force it is, force negates. Force, it stays away from you. It's the same concept as you can't let it go. You know, in manifesting, you always hear let it go. Okay, let go and let God. Okay, stop controlling the how. Okay, because if you truly don't let it go and you're constantly thinking in your mind how something's going to happen, that's mental coercion. That's mental force. That's why it's not coming to you. Okay? So let's read it one more time. So I had one more thing I wanted to say, but I forgot. I'm sorry about that. But it says, it means that man is continually revolting against an effect without, while all the time he is nourishing and preserving its cause in the heart. And what he means by this is that the whole time you're fighting, okay, the whole time you're trying to force negates, but then at the same time, these outside circumstances are coming to you because of your secret self. Okay, your deep-rooted beliefs that you have, your secret thoughts. So it just keeps on coming to you. Then you're fighting against it, so it force negates, okay? So it's like a vicious cycle of karma. It just keeps on happening to you. Men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but are unwilling to improve themselves. Isn't that so true? Okay, people, everybody, people are anxious to improve their circumstances. Okay, this could be you, this could be me. You are anxious to improve your circumstances. You want to improve your circumstances. You want to improve your 3D world. But you are unwilling to improve yourself. Most people are unwilling to get a mentor and coach to make themselves better. They're unwilling to do personal development every day. They're unwilling to buy books on this subject. They're unwilling to just to sit down and watch a YouTube video. Then he continues, they therefore remain bound. Okay, if you're unwilling to improve yourself, you remain bound, you remain trapped in your circumstances that you don't like. The man who does not shrink from self-crucifixion can never fail to accomplish the object upon which his heart is set. This is as true of earthly as of heavenly things. Even the man whose sole object is to acquire wealth must be prepared to make great personal sacrifices before he can accomplish his object. And how much more so he who would realize a strong and well-poised life. Now here you see I have highlighted here, here, and here. Here James Allen gives 3 distinctive examples on what he's talking about. So he says here, 1, here is a man who is wretchedly poor. He is extremely anxious that his surroundings and home comforts should be improved. Yet all the time he shirks his work and considers he is justified to trying to deceive his employer on the ground of the insufficiency of his wages. Now I laugh because isn't it so true? All these 3 examples, even though this was published in 1902, now 120 years later, when it's 2024, actually 122 years later, 2024, these examples he's going to give are the same today as it was 122 years ago. So I'll read it one more time to you. Here is a man who is wretchedly poor. Okay, so he's poor, he's in poverty. He's extremely anxious that his surroundings and home comforts should be improved. Yet all the time he shirks his work, meaning he's negative about his work, and considers he is justified in trying to deceive his employer on the ground of insufficiency of his wages. Such a man does not understand the simplest rudiments of those principles which are the basis of true prosperity, and is not only totally unfitted to rise out of his wretchedness, but is actually attracting to himself still deeper wretchedness by dwelling in and acting out indolent, deceptive, and unmanly thoughts. Wow. Let me see what color I have this on. Let's go to green. Let me highlight the bottom here. So I really want to point out something that James Allen says. And he's explaining it in a different way, but he's really teaching Neville Goddard here. And this was before Neville Goddard's time, before Neville Goddard was even born. Listen to what he says. But is actually attracting to himself. Listen, here's a man. He's poor. He's in poverty. Okay, he has a job. Okay, he talks negative, puts the job down. That's what it means, shirks his work. Okay, then on top of it, he deceives his employer. When he goes to work, he's manipulating, deceiving his employer. And basically on the grounds of, well, they're not paying me enough. Okay, they're not paying me enough, so that's why I deceive him. If they paid me more, then I would do the right thing. That's basically what's happening. But James Allen, he's twisting it. He changes it around. And right here, he says, such a man does not understand. He don't understand how the law works. He doesn't understand how universal law works. And he doesn't understand true prosperity, like right here. He don't understand how true prosperity works around universal law. Then he says, and is not only totally unfitted to rise out of his wretchedness. So he doesn't understand how the law works, but what he's doing, his whole thoughts is in poverty. His whole thoughts on negative about his work. Then he goes to work and he deceives and manipulates his employer. Then he makes excuses for doing it because he's not getting paid enough. Basically, he's living the law of karma. What the man don't understand is he can't attract prosperity. He can't get out of poverty because he's bound to it. He's bound to it by his actions and his thoughts. What is his actions? His actions is he's constantly thinking negative. He's constantly thinking negatives about his work. He constantly manipulates his boss, deceives his boss. So he's attracting like for like. It keeps him bound to that state. So this is why I keep on wanting to say Raymond Hollowell, but James Allen, this is what James Allen says. But in actuality, attracting to himself a still deeper reckedness by dwelling in. Remember, when you talk about dwelling in, what does it mean by dwelling in? It means he's living that lifestyle. Never God teaches about live in the in, or dwell in the in, or dwell within. Meaning that you become that person. Like if you want to be rich, when you live in the end, dwell in the end, you become that person. So what this man doesn't understand is when he's dwelling in this state, he's becoming more and more poor. He's becoming more and more of a wrecked person. He's becoming more and more of a deceiver because that's what he's living in. That's his whole life. And that's why James Allen says, He's digging himself deeper into wickedness by dwelling in and acting out indolent, deceptive, and unmanly thoughts. And then he gives a second example here. Here's a rich man. Now he reverses it. The first example was a poor man in poverty. Now he's given an example of a rich man, a wealthy man. So he says, here is a rich man who is the victim of a painful and persistent disease as a result of gluttony. Now, gluttony is meaning that, you overeat all the time. You just, it doesn't matter about your health. Your health can be ruined. You could have diabetes and stuff like that, but you just don't care. You just keep on eating all the sugar and sugary foods and stuff like that. That's gluttony. Then he continues, he is willing to give large sums of money to get rid of it. So he's paying large sums of money to hospital and doctor bills. But he will not sacrifice his gluttonous desires. Listen to this. He will not give up eating. He will not give up a better lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle for his unhealthy lifestyle. He won't give it up. He wants to gratify his taste for rich and unnatural foods and have his health as well. Such a man is totally unfit to have health because he has not yet learned the first principles of a healthy life. The third example here. Here is an employer of the labor who adopts crooked measures to avoid paying the regulation of wage. Now he's giving a business example. And then now he's kind of, basically you have an employer, they're avoiding labor laws and they're paying below minimum wage. That's what we would call it today. So here's an employer of labor who adopts crooked measures to avoid paying the regulation of wage. So he's talking about minimum wage. So here's an employer, he's paying you below minimum wage. And in the hope of making larger profits, reduces the wages of his work people. Such a man is altogether unfitted for prosperity. And when he finds himself bankrupt, both as regards reputation and riches, he blames circumstances, not knowingly that he is the sole author of his condition. See, basically what he's giving in all three examples, you reap what you sow. Okay, it doesn't matter. The law of compensation, listen to this, the law of compensation is you look always for good in every situation, not just good for yourself. You look always for good in every situation. You have a negative roadblock, it doesn't matter if 99% is negative. You pull out that 1% good. Okay, when you talk to other people, meet other people, you always pull out their good. You always think about them in good. But we actually do the opposite. Like most of the time when we talk about other people, we talk about them in a negative way. We're always focusing on what we don't like about them, or what should be improved about them, no matter which way we finagle it. But we should always always pull out, no matter every circumstance, of good. Bringing this down a little bit, I have introduced these three cases. Now he's basically doing a summary here. I have introduced these three cases merely as an illustrative of the truth that man is the causer. So man, you, everybody, you're the causer of your circumstances. You're the causer of your outside world. What's going on that you don't like? Somewhere along the line, you've caused it. You've attracted it. Though nearly always is unconscious. Listen to that. I'll reread it, so I have something to say. I have introduced these three cases merely as illustrative of the truth that man is the causer, though nearly always unconsciously, meaning you don't know what you're doing. You're just doing it unconscious. You're not doing it on purpose to yourself because you're not aware of it. I've introduced these three cases merely as illustrative of the truth that man is a causer of his circumstances, and that whilst aiming at the good end, he is continually frustrating its accomplishment by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with that end. And this is so true. You know, what's happening here is let's put it this way. Let's say you're trying to attract your dream home. Okay, so you have thoughts of your dream home, and you might visualize your dream home, but at the same time, you still have these deep-rooted beliefs that you don't deserve your dream home. You still have these deep-rooted secret thoughts that, oh, it's not going to happen to me. It might happen to my best friend Joe down the road, but it's not going to happen to me. And that's what he means by this. Is when he says he is continually frustrating its accomplishment. You are continually frustrating what you want to accomplish, what you want, by encouraging thoughts and desires which cannot possibly harmonize with what you want. Such cases could be multiplied and varied almost indefinitely, but this is not necessary, as the reader can, if he so resolves, trace the action of the laws of thought in his own mind and life. And until this is done, mere external facts cannot serve as a ground of reasoning. Circumstances, however, are so complicated. Thought is so deeply rooted, and the conditions of happiness vary so vastly with individuals that a man's entire soul condition cannot be judged by another from the external aspect of his life alone. A man may be honest in certain directions, yet suffer privations. A man may be dishonest in certain directions, yet acquire wealth. But the conclusion usually form that the one man fails because of his particular honesty and that the other prospers because of his particular dishonesty is a result of a superficial judgment. Isn't that so true? And I'm right here. In conclusion, when he's kind of wrapping up this thought here, usually is formed that the one man fails of his particular honesty. But he's talking about basically what he's talking about here is an honest person versus a dishonest person, and how manifesting really works. Okay, we tend to believe that if you're honest and good, bad will happen to you. Then the dishonest people, they always attract good. That's basically what he's saying. Is that then the man fails because of his particular honesty, and that the other prospers because of his particular dishonesty as a result of a superficial judgment, which assumes that the dishonest man is almost totally corrupt and the honest man almost entirely victorious. In the light of a deeper knowledge and the wider experience, such judgment is found to be erroneous. The dishonest man may have some admirable virtues, which on the other does not possess, and the honest man obnoxious vices which are absent in the other. The honest man reaps the good results of his honest thoughts and acts. He also brings upon himself the sufferings which his vices produce. The dishonest man likewise garners his own suffering and happiness. So what this means is universal law doesn't play favorites. This is what I'm saying. Your subconscious mind is just giving you what is. You can't manipulate the law. It is pleasing to human vanity to believe that one suffers because of one's virtue, but not until a man has I'm so sorry. Not until man has extirpated every sickling, bitter, and impure thought from his mind, and washed every sinful stain from his soul? Can he be in a position to know and declare that his sufferings are the result of his good and not of his bad qualities? And on the way to, yet long before he has reached that supreme perfection, he will have found, working in his mind and life, the great law which is absolutely just and which cannot therefore give good for evil. Listen to this. I'm right here. Let me put this on a different color. Kind of tired of white here. Listen, the great law, he's talking about the great laws of the universe, because every law works the same in this example. The great law, which is absolutely just, okay, meaning like every law has an opposite. It's absolutely just. Okay, there's a hot, there has to be a cold. There's a positive, has to be a negative. So the great law, which is absolutely just, and which cannot, therefore, give good for evil and evil for good. That's breaking the law. Okay, that's living against the law. If you give good, good has to come to you. If you give evil, evil has to come to you. You don't give good and evil comes to you. You don't give evil and good comes to you. Then he continues, possessed of such knowledge, he will then know, looking back upon his past ignorance and blindness, that his life is and always was justly ordered, and that all his past experiences, good and bad, were the equitable outworking of his evolving yet unevolved self. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. This is what I just said. Good thoughts and actions can never produce bad results. Why? Because that would actually break universal law. Good has to always give good to you. You reap what you sow. Then he continues, bad thoughts and actions can never produce good results. This is but saying that nothing can come from corn but corn. Okay, if you plant corn, you're not going to get wheat. If you plant corn, you're not going to get a tomato. If you plant corn, you don't get corn. Nothing from nettles but nettles. Men understand this law in the natural world. Listen to this. The laws of nature, when you talk about laws of nature, especially if you want to build a garden, a flower garden, a vegetable garden, you have to adhere to the laws of nature. If you don't, you're not going to have a wonderful garden. So this is what he says. Men understand this law in the natural world and work with it, but few understand it in the mental and moral world. Though its operation there is just as simple and undeviating, and they, therefore, do not cooperate with it. See, isn't it really weird when he puts it that way? Like, we understand natural law. Well, not natural law. We understand nature's law. We understand the laws of nature. And for example, either with farming, or you want your own garden, you want your own flower garden, you want to plant your own little vegetable garden to grow tomatoes and beans and maybe little herb plants. Okay, we understand that we have to obey the laws of nature. We can't plant in winter and expect everything to grow. It's not gonna happen because we're violating that law. But then James Allen says, well, we understand the laws of nature, but at the same time, we don't understand the laws of our mental and moral world. Suffering is always the effect of wrong thought in some direction. Listen, suffering is always the effect of wrong thought in some direction. It is an indication that the individual is out of harmony with himself. Listen, if things are not going your way, all it means is you're not in harmony with yourself, with the law of his being. You're not in harmony with the law of your being. Okay, you're in disharmony. Okay, what you want, your dream life, but yet you have all these negative thoughts. You're not in harmony with it. That's why it's not coming to you. That's why you keep on producing negative thing after negative thing. The sole and supreme use of suffering is to purify, to burn out all that is useless and impure. Suffering ceases for him who is pure. There could be no object in burning gold after the dross has been removed, and a perfectly pure and enlightened being could not suffer. The circumstances which man encounters with suffering are the result of his own mental inharmony. That's what we've been talking about. I just said that. And even though I read this chapter, of course it's not memorized. But your circumstances, your outside world, which a man, which you encounter with suffering, are the result of your own mental inharmony. Again, like I just said, okay, you want your dream life, but it's not in harmony with your thought life right now. The circumstances which a man encounters with blessedness are the result of his own mental harmony. Blessedness, not material possessions, is the measure of right thought. Reckedness, not lack of material possessions, is the measure of wrong thought. A man may be cursed and enriched. Listen, right here. A man may be cursed and rich. He may be blessed and poor. Blessedness and riches are only joined together when the riches are rightly and wisely used. And the poor man only descends into wretchedness when he regards his lot as a burden unjustly imposed. Indigence and indulgence are the two extremes of wretchedness. They are both equally unnatural and the result of mental disorder. A man is not rightly conditioned until he is a happy, healthy, and prosperous being. And happiness and health and prosperity are the result of a harmonious adjustment of the inner with the outer, of the man with his surroundings. Remember, it's your happiness, you're in harmony, it starts from within and it goes out. So now he's talking about how, like you want to manifest your dream house, you want to manifest your dream car. Okay, maybe you want to manifest, you want to be a millionaire, you manifest your dream career, but you want these things, you study Neurogaldage, you go inside your imagination, okay, but you're not living in harmony with it. You're not living in the yin with it. Living in the yin is actually being in harmony with it, meaning that in your 3D world, right now, in your present moment, your thoughts have to be aligned with what you want. Meaning your thoughts have to be pure, good, and positive with what you want. But instead, we're not in harmony with it. But instead, what's happening is we still remain ourselves. We still have our deep-rooted beliefs that hold us back. We still have that secret thoughts that hold us back. We still have those secret negative thoughts that we dwell on. A man only begins to be a man when he ceases to whine and revile and commences to search for the hidden justice which regulates his life. And as he adapts his mind to that regulating factor, he ceases to excuse others as the cause of his condition. Listen, he ceases to excuse others of the cause of his condition. What does that mean? It means when something bad happens to me, if something going on that I don't like, what do people mainly do? They blame somebody else. They blame outside circumstances. They blame their boss, their employer, their job. They blame their husband and their wife, their significant other. They always blame something on the outside of us. Okay, we don't look within ourselves. So that's what he's saying. It's not the outside in, it's from the inside. It's from within out. That's what he's saying. He ceases to excuse others as a cause of his condition and builds with himself up in a strong and noble thoughts. Ceases to kick against circumstances, but begins to use them as aids in his more rapid progress and as a means of discovering the hidden powers and possibilities within himself. Law, not confusion, is the dominating principle in the universe. Listen to this. Law, not confusion. Now, if you're confused, you're in inharmony with the law. So that's why he says law, not confusion, is the dominating principle in the universe. Justice, not injustice, is the soul and substance of life. And righteousness, not corruption, is the molding and moving force in the spiritual government of the world. This being so, man has but to right himself to find that the universe is right. And during the process of putting himself right, he will find that as he alters his thoughts towards things and other people will alter towards him. Now, this is a long paragraph. This is it's almost a whole page here. The proof of this truth is in every person. So now he's going to give an example here and really explain what he's been talking about. The proof of this truth is in every person, and it therefore admits of easy investigation by systematic introspection and self-analysis. There's a whole thing, like we've talked before, about being aware. Self-analysis is being aware of what you're doing, being aware of your thoughts, being aware of what you're talking out loud, being aware of your deep-rooted beliefs. Start becoming aware. You're not going to do this in one day, but start becoming aware. Let a man radically alter his thoughts, and he will be astonished at the rapid transformation it will effect in the material conditions of his life. Men imagine that thought can be kept secret, but it cannot. Listen to this. Isn't it so true? Everybody, we imagine that thought can be kept secret, or secret thoughts. Nobody else knows. We think it's kept in secret, but he says, but it's not, but it cannot. It's not true. It rapidly crystallizes into habit, and habit solidifies into circumstance, meaning it manifests into our 3D world. Bestial thoughts crystallize into habits of drunkenness and sensuality, which solidify into circumstances of destitution and disease. Impure thoughts of every kind crystallize into enervating and confusing habits, which solidify into distracting and adverse circumstances. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision. Listen to this. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision. These are the three main things that everybody has in their life. Okay? And he says, thoughts of fear, and I'll highlight where I'm at so you can follow along. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision crystallize into weak, unmanly, and irresolute habits, which solidify into circumstances of failure, indigence, and slavish dependency. Lazy thoughts crystallize into habits of uncleanliness and dishonesty, which solidify into circumstances of foulness and beggary. Hateful and condemnatory thoughts crystallize into habits of accusation and violence, which solidify into circumstances of injury and persecution. Selfish thoughts of all kinds crystallize into habits of self-seeking, which solidify into circumstances more or less distressing. And I'm right here. Now he changes it. He says, on the other hand, he gave so many examples here of different examples of thoughts, but in a negative realm. But then he says, on the other hand, I bring it up here. On the other hand, beautiful thoughts of all kinds crystallize into habits of grace and kindliness, which solidify into general and sunny circumstances. Pure thoughts crystallize into habits of temperance and self-control, which solidify into circumstances of repose and peace. Thoughts of courage, self-reliance, and decision. Listen to this, the opposite. You have courage, self-reliance. Okay, you can rely on yourself. You can take care of yourself. And you're a decision maker. You're not indecisive. You know exactly what you want. Crystallizes into manly habits, which solidify into circumstances of success, plenty, and freedom. Energetic thoughts crystallize into habits of cleanliness and industry, which solidify into circumstances of pleasantness. Gentle and forgiving thoughts crystallize into habits of gentleness, which solidify into protective and preservative circumstances. Loving and unselfish thoughts crystallize into habits of self-forgetfulness for others, which solidify into the circumstances of sure and abiding prosperity and true riches. A particular train of thought persisted in, be it good or bad, cannot fail to produce its results on the character and circumstances. Listen to this. A particular train of thought persisted in. So what that means is you're festering on these thoughts. You're persisting in it, be good or bad, no matter what it is, it's positive or negative, cannot fail to produce its result on the character and circumstances. Meaning that if you have thoughts of good, good has to come to you. That's what's going to happen. A man cannot directly choose his circumstances, but he can choose his thoughts, and so indirectly, yet surely, shape his circumstances. Nature helps every man to the gratification of his thoughts, which he most encourages, and opportunities are presented, which will most speedily bring to the surface both the good and evil thoughts. Let a man cease from his sinful thoughts, and all the world will soften towards him, and be ready to help him. Listen to this. Let a man cease from his sinful thoughts. Okay, now what do we mean by sinful thoughts? Okay, what do we mean by sin? Sometimes we say sin, people link it to God, people link it to religion or some type of religion, they link it to Christianity. All sin separates you from God. Okay, now if you actually watch Working with the Law by Raymond Hollowell, okay, we went through that series, you know that God in Hebrew means law. This is how we got the laws in the universe. God means law. So if sin separates you from God, okay, what sin does, sin separates you from law. Sin separates you from the laws of the universe. Meaning that you're not living in harmony with the universal laws. So he says, let man cease from his sinful thoughts, and all the world will soften towards him and be ready to help him. Let him put away his weakly and sickly thoughts, and lo, opportunities will spring up on every hand to aid his strong resolves. Let him encourage good thoughts, and no hard fate shall bind him down to wretchedness and shame. The world is your kaleidoscope, and the varying combinations of colors which at every succeeding moment it presents to you are the exquisitely adjusted pictures of your ever-moving thoughts. And he ends his chapter with this poem right here. So you will be what you will be. Let failure find its false content in that poor word environment, but spirit scorns it and is free. Its master's time, it conquers space. It cows the boastful trickster, chase, and binds the tyrant circumstance, uncrown and fill the servant's place. The human will, that force unseen, the offspring of a deathless soul, can hew a way to any goal, though walls of granite intervene. But not impatient in delays, but wait as one who understands. When spirit rises and commands, the gods are ready to obey. I love this poem, and I love the end, because the end, when he says, and I'm going to wrap up this chapter on this thought, is when he says at the end of this poem, be not impatient in delays. Okay, be persistent. Okay, stop looking for the how. Be not impatient in delays, but wait as one who understands. You understand the law. You understand if you're doing good and you're seeking good, good has to come to you. That's why I said be patient. Because if you understand how laws work, how universal laws work, the more you grow confident in the laws, you're going to patiently wait. I mean, it's just like when you're a little kid and you're making a Christmas list. If your parents come to you and say, hey, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want for your birthday? And you tell them your favorite toy you want. You believe that you're going to get that on your birthday. You believe you're going to wake up Christmas morning and have exactly what you want. You truly believe that as a kid. Or you believe Santa Claus is going to come. Be not impatient in the delays, but wait as one who understands the law. When spirit rises and commands, the gods are ready to obey. What that means is that's how universal laws work. They don't discriminate. If you think good has to come to you. God has to come to you. God has to obey the law. Then also the opposite is true. If you think negative has to come to you. Why? Because universal laws do not discriminate. Just like your subconscious mind doesn't discriminate. Your subconscious mind just takes it as is, just takes your thoughts as is. Whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're festering on over and over and over again, whatever you bring emotion to, has to come to you. It has to. It doesn't. Your subconscious mind isn't a comedian. It doesn't take jokes. It just takes it as is. And it gives to you, no matter if you're a good person, no matter if you're a bad person. It's giving you exactly what your thoughts are, what your secret thoughts are. The secret you, your deep-rooted beliefs, that's what it's giving to you in your outside world. That's what's being manifested to you. But other than that, my friends, that's the end of chapter 2 here. So if you have any question with this was a long chapter. And comment below your thoughts. And if you need help with this, make sure you comment below, because I always answer my comments, and or I make other videos on as well to kind of help out and help explain, especially in this circumstance when we're really going through a book. Yeah, because I'm basically staying on how James Allen is writing in A Man Thinketh. Then plus I'm kind of giving my own thoughts on that, but I'm kind of really digging into how James Allen is describing it and what we need to do to basically manifest more success in our lives. So make sure you comment below. Remember, I love you guys. Peace be with you and blessings to you, and I'll see you in chapter 3.